For the typical American, there is a lot of confusion about what life is truly like in China. When I tell them how modern the cities are, people are shocked. When I tell them about how low the prices are, people are shocked. Less than $4 for a Michelin recommended meal.
Less than $4 for a Michelin star restaurant? Wow. This is something that's kind of going around with a lot of millennials. I haven't heard too many Gen Z. They get along. I haven't heard too many Gen Z. More so millennials and moving to another country. Obviously, this has been going on in the boomer generation for a while. People retiring and moving overseas to a different country for a lifestyle, right? It all boils down to money. Um, I think how you experience America will largely be determined on the fact of how you is your financial status, right? If you have money, America's great. Europe is great. You can have lots of fun. What's that saying? Make the money in America, spend it in Europe. Uh, so I think anywhere you go that's not in America, I think you'll have a pretty good fun time. I mean, you can have some fun here too. Don't get me wrong, but generally people are just satisfied because of money. But let's get into it. And there's other things too, not to just put a broad, not to paint with a broad brush, but largely our dissatisfaction comes from the lack of resources. So let's see.
The quality of my lifestyle in China is much better than the quality of life I had living in the US. My name is Elise Lightyear. I'm 35 years old, and I moved to China in 2019.
I've always wanted to get China.
I grew up in the city of Ann Arbor, Michigan. After I graduated college, I moved to New York City and lived there for 10 years. I was working in reality TV production. I was tired of working 70 hours a week for 10 years, being in my 20s. I felt like a 50-year-old woman. I was exhausted. I was living check to check, which sucked.
And there you have it. So again, it all boils down to money, right? The lack thereof is how you generally experience America. America's not a place where you can come and sit on your hands for sure. You got to come in here and go to work. You get rewarded if you're an entrepreneur, if you're on a business, or you invest in something of that nature. You get slaughtered if you just rely on your W 2 income. Nothing wrong with that. Not bashing it. I work a job myself. I'm just saying that that can't be the only thing that can sustain you.
One day I just woke up and it just clicked that this is not the life that I want for myself. I came up with this idea that I wanted to leave New York. I moved to Beijing in 2019 and lived and taught there for 4 years. Then in 2023, I moved to Chengdu and have been in Chengdu ever since. He's going to let the duck be free. Good luck, Mr. Duck. It was really difficult to say goodbye to my family and friends because I didn't know when I would see them again. I didn't know how we would be able to communicate. And I was scared. I was scared of this 15-hour flight that I had to take.
That is something I will attest to when you move. So I've moved recently from going on year two now, but from grew up in the West Coast, from California to Oregon. Now live in Georgia, and no family, nothing over here. And I will say it's a little nerve wracking because again, it's just out of the norm. I can't even imagine moving to another country with no family, no nothing nearby. Uh, would I be down to do it? Sure, I'd try it. But nonetheless, I do. I could relate to that. You know that feeling.
I was scared about what food I was going to eat. I was scared about this new career, about being a teacher. I was scared about making friends. but I was ready and I was excited. And I think my excitement trumped my anxiety and my scared feelings. Chengdu is maybe a place you've never heard of, but it is actually one of the biggest cities. Chengdu has a population of over 20 million people, including
Oh, it's a
myself.
lot.
Currently, I'm a university teacher and I work a total of 18 hours a week, 4 days a week. And I teach freshman first year university students who already speak English, and I teach them essay writing. I take the subway every single day to work. It's really easy to navigate. All of the signs are in English and Chinese. All of the announcements are in English and Chinese. So it's foolproof. This round trip subway trip cost me 2 yuan, which is 28 US cents.
See, that's why I don't know that we could ever compete on that level with them. It cost her $5 for a Michelin star restaurant. It cost her 28 cents for a round trip ticket on the subway. I grew up in the Bay Area, and this is back in the day, it cost us 8 to 9, sometimes 12, depending on where you're going. Round, I don't know how you compete with that. The cost of living here in the US is so expensive that I don't know that we'll ever be on the same page as some of these other countries because their labor, they can get the labor for cheap. They'll beat us every single time. So I just don't know what the strategy is in regards to like beating them. I know China's economy is in, turmoil right now. So is ours. I don't know comparison. I'm not an economist by any stretch of the imagination, but when you start to see this and you start to see how most people over here live, and again, most of it's self-inflicted wounds, right? We got to take more accountability for that. Student loan debt is out of control. Credit card debt's out of control. It's death by a thousand cuts. We do a lot of it self-inflicted for sure. However, the cost being so affordable it's impressive. I'll give them that. But something that people don't talk about enough is as much as we bash, I don't, but people tend to bash America for the lack thereof or whatever. Usually you want to make money in America and go spend it elsewhere. You don't hear people saying, I want to go make money somewhere else and come to America to live. You know what I mean? Here you come to make your money to be able to support your lifestyle overseas. It's not the other way around. So America's still good for something. There's still value there. So I think that's not talked about enough, in my opinion. Maybe I'm not listening to the right people. Maybe that's just me.
My current yearly salary in China is 30,000 US dollars. 30,000 US dollars a year is poverty in America.
That's
But in
true in most cities,
China,
yeah.
I'm living large. I am upper middle class. For my 3 bedroom apartment with a balcony located downtown Chengdu, just a 5-minute walk from the subway, my rent is $556 per month, but my job pays half of that as a benefit, which means I only pay $278 a month for my apartment. Welcome to my apartment here in Chengdu, China. None of this furniture in the apartment actually belongs to me. It belongs to my landlord. This is my living
Okay.
room.
All right. Couple things. Saying like, to me it seems like contradictory because yeah, you're making $30,000. You're buying $5 Michelin star food, and you're riding the subway for 28 cents, and your rent is only 500 bucks or whatever it was. But those are key words. So you got to pay attention to the words people are saying. I don't even know if people pay attention to the words that they say. Rent, in furniture, she said her landlord owns it all. There's two strikes right there. Nothing wrong with renting. I currently rent. I do also own investment property, but that's neither here nor there. She doesn't own anything. At least I'm not seeing it or I haven't heard it. Maybe she hasn't talked about it yet, but ownership is key. So a lot of times you'll find out in a lot of countries that you go to that has well, I can't say a lot of countries, but it seems like China, the ownership piece is the piece that creates wealth, right? You come to America, you buy a house, you own that home. Again, a home, in my opinion, not an asset, but hey, whatever. Just to keep it simple for this conversation, we'll just go ahead and say you own it. Um, your furniture, obviously, no value there, but again, you're renting it. Someone's making money off of that. If I was over there, I'd probably looking to get into the furnished business because if they're doing this in high rises, you could make a pretty penny leasing that furniture. But I think they're over there as well. But ownership is key. Winners and losers are determined by who owns assets. If you don't own assets, you are losing. I don't care what country you're in. If you don't own it, you're losing. And you may feel like you're winning, but actually winning is different. You buy an investment property, the first 5 years of owning it usually sucks. You pay the most interest and all that stuff. I feel like it's a little easier. Your first deal usually sucks. But what happens is you have a proof of concept. Whereas if you go through life renting, in the long run, you may lose. Now, unless you have other investments or something like that, again, just to keep this conversation simple, owning your home, eventually you will win out when you go to sell it. But that's something that I think people need to switch their mindset because she's talking about her apartment, rent is cheap, the furniture she does not own, but she enjoys. I mean, okay.
I love my living room. It's super cozy. I have this huge sectional couch that I just come to lay on all of the time. Bought myself a projector. I've got
Jeez.
Netflix, HBO Max, Hulu, all of the channels. This is my balcony that rarely gets used because it's either raining, super humid, or 97 degrees. Okay. This is my bathroom. It's small, but it's effective. This is my wardrobe room. This is the third bedroom, but there's no bed. So I've turned it into my wardrobe closet, get ready space. My second bedroom.
All right, I don't really care about her apartment tour. Anyways, I just thought the first part of that was interesting, getting the numbers and aspect. But remember, ownership is key. Please don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and let me know what you guys' thoughts are in the comments below. Take care. Bye.